Well, hello everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa and Solutions with Chanti, here where we are just hanging out on a Friday and we are currently watching the sequel to the Fall of the Cabal. That's what we're doing on these Fridays currently. So join me. We are watching, I think, episode 8 and 9 today, which is all about biotech and global power. So hang in there. It's Friday, guys. Do you know how I am? Do you know how hot it is out here? The last few days, I don't know, it's cold and then really cold, and winter's on the way, and now it's boiling hot again. But anyway, happy Friday, wherever in the beautiful world you are. Hello, Peculiar Mama. Nice to see you. And as I said, we are watching how is the system evolving? Technology, biotech, and global power. Hello, Brian. Hello, Peculiar Mama. Hello, Mornay. Thought Mornay saying hello, beautiful to me. Okay. We're going to start episode 9 and 10. Or did I say 8 and 9? 9 and 10. Okay, so hang in there, grab your chai, grab your tea, and let's see what Bill Gates and friends have been getting up to while we haven't been looking.
In 2016, the Gates Foundation decided that the African chickens weren't fat enough. Not only that, their eggs were too tiny. Gates came up with a brilliant plan. Let's genetically modify chickens. The University of Wageningen and Hendrix Genetics, both from the Netherlands, invented a new chicken species made especially for poor African families. What a marvelous idea! And what a great philanthropist! Genetically modified chickens that no African family had asked for. According to Janet Mawio, president of the Kenya Community Development Foundation, the native chickens are great. They may look a little skimpy, but they taste terrific. And they are unvaccinated. Our chickens feed themselves in nature. If we get more of them, who's going to pay for the food? And who will pay for the vaccinations? She asked in an interview. Excuse me? Vaccinations? Are these genetically modified super chickens not perfect when they come rolling out of the lab? Obviously not. They have to be vaccinated. That explains why the Dutch research supervisor, Lisbeth van der Waai, said, "The chickens must come with a clear manual. They need good food and plenty of water. If not, the production will probably be disappointing in practice." So, genetically modified chickens that need special food and vaccinations. Gates was delighted. In a press conference, he stated that 100,000 chickens were going to be donated to the poor in Ethiopia, Nigeria, and Tanzania. He tried to give them to Bolivia too, but they didn't want them. As a matter of fact, the African people didn't want them either, as Janet Mawillo pointed out. But for some reason, Bill Gates always gets what he wants in Africa. Genetically modified chickens, vaccinations. It seems like he has built up a great relationship with the mostly corrupted leaders of those countries. Oh, and the chicken story had a little tail to it. Shortly after Gates had introduced his super chickens, the bird flu erupted. In Nigeria alone, more than 750 outbreaks led to 3.5 million dead chickens. Coincidence? You tell me. At any rate, all of those lost chickens had to be replaced by Hendrix Genetics from the Netherlands. I sure hope they offered them at a special discount. Oh, and the man in charge of the genetically modified chicken project at Wageningen University, Johan van Arendonk, promoter of the thesis we showed you less than 3 minutes ago, was welcomed by Hendrix Genetics as Head of Research and Development on the 1st of January 2016. Four years later, he was promoted Chief Technology and Innovation Officer and part of the Executive Committee. That's how it works, my friends. First, you get several millions from the Gates Foundation or the Rockefeller Foundation to research the possibilities for a new chicken breed in several African countries. Of course, you accept the assignment. You set up a research program that is carried out by several African assistant researchers under your supervision. Research papers are published, and Mr. Gates is no doubt satisfied with your research findings and, as such, the business opportunities you offered him. So, what follows is a promotion. Off you go to Hendrix Genetics, where you receive another 9 million from Gates to genetically create a new breed of chicken. The moment you accept the job at Hendrix Genetics, you are in Gates's pocket. You will make whatever he wants you to make. It doesn't matter if your creation can only survive on good food, clean water, and vaccinations. Who cares? Nobody will know. The mainstream media won't say a thing. Who cares about the coincidental outbreak of the bird flu within a month after the delivery of your creation? Who cares that thousands of African people were devastated, ruined? They didn't have the money to buy more of your super chickens, nor their high-quality food, nor all of their future vaccinations. They had nothing left. But then again, we're talking about Africa. Nobody cares about Africa, right? The mainstream media remained silent, as always. Well, they reported the bird flu, of course. Yet another great opportunity for Bill Gates to develop yet another vaccination project. Because that, dearest viewers, is what Africa needs. It doesn't need clean water, nutritious food, or schools. It needs vaccinations. Chickens are not the only animal species that fascinate Gates. So do mosquitoes. Well, actually, he hates them, just like anybody else. as some of them spread diseases such as Zika and malaria. And so Gates came up with yet another brilliant plan to improve the world. He paid the British company Oxitec millions of dollars to develop a program to genetically modify mosquitoes. Oxitec developed a modified version of Aedes aegypti, the mosquito responsible for transmitting Zika and dengue fever. The males were genetically tampered with and received a self-limiting gene, targeting only the females, the ones that sting for blood, and by doing so spread disease. When the GMO males mated with the wild females, the self-limiting gene was passed on to their offspring, killing only the females. After several generations, there would only be males left. In and of itself, a brilliant plan, and quite a gentle way to wipe out an entire species of mosquitoes. Several trials were held in India and in Panama, after which the first official grand release took place in Brazil in May 2018. Millions of genetically modified mosquitoes were released in a city over a period of 27 weeks. The results seemed promising at first, and the Gates Foundation made sure the press released articles about its immense success. But after a year and a half, genetically modified male mosquitoes were having a ball with the natural local female mosquitoes, and billions of hybrid baby bugs were born to pester the inhabitants and to continue breeding like there was no tomorrow. The self-limiting gene was not doing what it was supposed to do. The result was disastrous. The species had only become stronger than ever before. Did you hear about this in the news? No. It can only be found by reading long and boring scientific papers that nobody tends to do. Only a few alternative media reported it, but as always, they were ignored, overruled, and ridiculed as conspiracy theorists. Instead of abandoning this sinking ship, Bill Gates took it a step further. He asked Oxitec to genetically modify yet another species, the females of Anopheles albinmanus, 1 out of 4 mosquito species that can transmit malaria. Trials were held in Burkina Faso in Africa. The locals resisted. They asked for mosquito nets, a cheap and very effective solution. But, as always, they were not heard. Why is it always that these experimental trials are held in less developed countries? Don't these lives matter? Now, even though the idea of no more mosquitoes may sound appealing to many, everyone who understands anything about ecosystems and the balance of nature knows that this is bad news. One does not play God and get away with it. Genetically modifying one kind of mosquito will have far-reaching effects on nature and thus on people, especially in rural areas where people depend on agriculture to survive. The entire ecosystem could end up disrupted in ways that cannot be foreseen. Now, normally, it would take years to pass an environmental law for these kinds of things. But because of COVID-19, the Environmental Protection Agency decided differently. environmental laws will not be upheld at this point. The mosquitoes may be released, and this time in Florida. And so, in the summer of 2020, swarms of genetically modified mosquitoes were to be set free. But due to public protest, it was put on hold. Now, I can hear people think, what's the big deal? The annihilation of mosquitoes, isn't that a dream come true? Well, it was and still is presented that way by Gates. But let's have a look at an article in Science from 2010. 11 years ago, a group of Japanese researchers developed a mosquito that spread vaccine instead of disease. However, the regulatory and ethical problems will prevent the critters from ever taking wing, the researchers stated. Yet, 3 years later, the US Army Medical Research and Development Command picked up on this idea in collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They did not seem to be bothered with ethical problems. The study to turn mosquitoes into flying vaccinators was Gates's new target. And not just Gates's. Why was the US Army suddenly involved? Doesn't that point us in the direction of biological warfare? Now, for those viewers who believe that weaponizing mosquitoes is too far-fetched, please dive into the subject and you will find out that as early as 1953, the US initiated its weaponization efforts with disease vectors, as they called it, focused on fleas spreading the plague, mosquitoes causing brain infections by spreading encephalitis, and mosquitoes spreading yellow fever. Experimental trials were held over Florida and Georgia to see if the insects could be used successfully as a bioweapon to kill off urban populations. A declassified Army document from 1981 entitled An Evaluation of Entomological Warfare as a Potential Danger to the United States and European NATO nations describes in detail how the government raised millions of mosquitoes as weapons and released them in covert operations over US residents. Calculations showed it would cost only 29 cents per death if half of the population were to be killed. 29 cents per death. What a wonderful cost-effective way to execute a massacre. There's nothing new under the sun. For decades, armies all over the world have done these horrid experiments on their own and other countries' unsuspecting citizens. It didn't matter how many people died. It didn't matter if innocent children died. All that mattered was information, which is gruesome in and of itself. But how does it make you feel that right now the Gates Foundation is involved in all of this? Of course, different target, modern-day equipment, but the idea never changed. How to perform genocide in the most efficient and cost-effective way. Depopulation with a capital D. Much of the collaboration between the Gates Foundation and the US Army is classified. From 2013 onward, not much can be found unless you have special clearance. Why am I not surprised? Oh, and Oxitec, the company that is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to develop the genetically modified insects, is tied to the US Army as well. Their current CEO, Ray Franson, worked for the US Department of State. He was advisor to the US Navy. He wrote the first guide to non-governmental organizations for the military and is seen as an expert on NGO-military relations. Furthermore, when he was president of Allfactor, a company similar to Oxitec, he signed agreements with the US military's Walter Reed Army Institute of Research for the military bases around the world to use Allfactor's technology. When a GMO company's technology is used by the Army and there is a direct link with the Biodefense Lab, Fort Detrick, Maryland, notorious for its covert biowarfare tests on US civilians to examine the feasibility of mosquitoes as vectors for bioweapons, you can rest assured that the company and its president were up to their ears in the development of GMO bioweapons. That same man now runs the mosquito show in Florida as president of Oxitec with the money of Bill Gates. If Gates is working on a better world, do you really think some of his projects were classified? Why on earth is he spending millions of dollars on genetically modified bugs that can be and have been deployed to spread disease and to vaccinate people? Why the secrecy? Are we being used as guinea pigs for more military tests? And why Florida? Is there a connection with the eeny-weeny tiny super drones that look like mosquitoes? Back in 2018, there were headlines about the race between the US and Russia to be the first manufacturer of the unmanned aerial vehicle, the UAV, or micro-aerial vehicle, the MAV. Using nanotechnology, these little drones can be deployed against people during, for instance, peace protests. Equipped with a camera and a microphone, they can land on you, take samples of your DNA, or leave tracking nanotechnology on your skin. Strategic analyst Paul Buchanan told NBR in July 2018 about the interest in UAVs. The predictions were that the UAV industry could be worth $89 billion by 2022. Somehow, we find it hard to believe that our philanthropist Bill Gates has nothing to do with these insect drones. It's probably only a matter of months before he comes out with yet another interview promoting the infinite possibilities of the nanobugs. In June 2020, Bill Gates talked about his surprise that so many people don't trust his good intentions, especially when it comes to vaccinations. We're just giving money away, he said. We just write checks to pharma companies. Up until April 2020, the WHO's biggest sponsor was the American government. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was number 2. When President Trump put a halt to this funding, Mr. Gates became the WHO's biggest sugar daddy. He owns the WHO.
Halting funding for the WHO during a world health crisis is as dangerous as it sounds. The world needs them now more than ever. Well, the truth is the group actually needs Gates more than ever. With the U.S. taking a pause, he'll now be their largest active donor. That's right, 1 out of every 10 bucks that the WHO gets is from the world's second wealthiest man. So should we be concerned about how much one man has maybe an outsized influence with an obviously corruptible entity such as the WHO? Joining me now.
He's treated like a head of state, not only at the WHO, but also at the G20. He is one of the most influential men in global health. The Foundation's impact on the WHO is enormous. If they weren't there, if they walked away with their money, the deleterious impact would be profound, and everyone is all too aware of that. The WHO is owned by Bill Gates. Its Director General, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, is nothing but a puppet. His strings are pulled by Gates and the Clintons. In 2018, yet another scandal came to light. Here's what happened. Before Tedros became Director General of the WHO, he held 2 high-level positions in the government of Ethiopia, Minister of Health and subsequently Minister of Foreign Affairs. He became very friendly with the Clintons and a speaker at the Clinton Global Initiative of the Clinton Foundation. And he was board chair of the Global Fund. The Global Fund presents itself as an independent organization that aims at eradicating AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. While Tedros was chair of the Global Fund, the organization was involved in scandals about fraud and misappropriation of funds. An investigation showed that 67% spent on an AIDS program in Mauritania was misspent. And Mauritania wasn't the only country that missed out on a lot of money. According to financial investigators Larry Doyle and John Moynihan, we are looking at a classic example of money laundering. Here's how it works. The Clinton Foundation received millions of dollars from poor countries, such as the Dominican Republic, Rwanda and Lesotho, which is rather strange, don't you think? I mean, aren't those countries supposed to be on the receiving end of the cash flow? Anyway, those countries received money from the Global Fund. The Global Fund then received millions of dollars from USAID via the State Department. Who oversaw those funds? None other than Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The Clinton Foundation subsequently received millions from the Global Fund. Indeed, money laundering at its finest. Doyle and Moynihan testified before Congress about the corruption in the Clinton Foundation, in which the Global Fund, at that time chaired by Tedros, our current President General of the WHO, played an important role. The same Tedros who is now telling the world what to do about COVID-19. Funny world, isn't it? Are you starting to have doubts yet about Mr. Gates' philanthropy? Are you ready for more that will put him behind bars if it comes out into the open? Then follow me to part 10.
Okay, part 10 it is. Part 10 it is. Well, I just can't actually imagine that people are this evil. But without any further ado, let's go for the next one.
We're not done with Mr. Gates just yet. As a matter of fact, we've only just started. What else is he up to? He is heavily into buying shares and thus influence in big companies such as Apple, Twitter, Alphabet, Amazon, and Alibaba. Companies that have massive influence in the area of tracking apps, global surveillance, facial recognition, and spyware. His part in Alphabet and Twitter explains the absurd level of censorship we encounter when posting or searching for anything controversial about vaccinations and currently COVID-19. Own the internet, and you own the public opinion. Amazon has been under fire for having the exact same weirdness on their website as Wayfair. In case you missed the Wayfair scandal, here's what happened. Researchers found this in their pursuit of child traffickers. Ridiculously high prices for average products. Upon investigation, the names of these products turned out to correspond with missing children. Coincidence? Absolutely, according to the fact-checkers. But they connected the products to the wrong children. Any other leads? Yes. Remember this sofa with its weird price? Well, guess what? These numbers are the actual coordinates of Epstein Island. Little St. James, Pedo Island, Orgy Island, it goes by many names. And look at the name of the sofa. She was the consort of convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. She is now in custody and singing like a canary, meaning she has given the investigators a list with a lot of names belonging to the people who joined her on the Lolita Express, Epstein's private jet, to visit Little St. James, where they collectively raped and murdered children, according to whistleblowers. Among those names are Hollywood stars. Top-level officials. politicians, members of the royal families, and Bill Gates. So, fact-checkers, maybe the conspiracy theory about Gates buying shares of companies that are deeply into child trafficking or human trafficking in general is not so far-fetched as you might think. I mean, it is easy to debunk a theory, but can you debunk facts? Ridiculously high prices of some products, and names that correspond with missing children. Fact. A Sophus Prize identical to Epstein Island's coordinates. Fact. Epstein being a convicted pedophile and child molester. Fact. That Sophus name corresponding with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's madam and handler. Fact. Ghislaine Maxwell now in jail, where she provided the investigative authorities with a blacklist. Fact. A blacklist with hundreds of names of members of the elite. Fact. Hidden meaning of the name Wayfair. Wave plus fair. Fact. Bill Gates on the passenger list of Epstein's private plane. Fact. Bill Gates denying being a friend or business associate of Epstein. Fact.
Gates says, no relationship, nada, nothing. You report these two men met at least 6 times. What does Gates say about that?
Well, I believe that there were more, and he and his spokespeople would not say how many in total they actually met. But this included visits to the mansion, seeing each other in Seattle, flying on Epstein's plane, when we all know Bill Gates has his own $40 million plane. And then, as an investigative reporter, why would Gates say, oh, I had no relationship with him, when, of course, he knows what the facts are? So that always sets off red flags for me.
He also has one of the largest, most established foundations on his own.
Yes.
Why would they ever set up a charitable trust benefiting Jeffrey Epstein?
Well,
what's the explanation?
Not only does he have the world's largest charitable foundation, but one of their primary missions is to help young women in underprivileged countries. Jeffrey Epstein was preying on young women from Eastern Europe, from South Africa, luring them into his web. And it's the antithesis of what the Gates Foundation stands for. And by the way, there were Gates Foundation employees who were horrified when they realized what Jeffrey Epstein had done and was saying, we don't want to have anything to do with this, and yet the project went on.
And what is the Gates explanation for this?
That it was all about philanthropy, that Bill Gates just wanted to find new sources of money.
Not very smart, Bill. The evidence is there. It will not go away. Gates and Epstein met on several occasions to discuss philanthropy issues. Let me guess. I'll bet they wanted to do more to protect little girls and young women, right? If this is ever brought before a judge, Gates will be found guilty and spend the rest of his days in Guantanamo Bay. That is, if he doesn't get the death penalty. Back to the internet, and back to Gates' huge investments in companies such as Amazon, that has been under investigation ever since the Wayfair scandal. Amazon is notorious for its censorship of books and documentaries about child trafficking and pedophilia. They do sell this kind of items, though. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, maybe not when you realize that upon further investigation, we discovered that Amazon has the exact same interesting price-quality ratio for some products as Wayfair. And for our Dutch viewers, so does bol.com. Maybe it's time for the investigative units into child trafficking to investigate bol.com too? Oh, and Alibaba? Adrenochrome. Pages full of adrenochrome. Remember the highly adrenalized blood of children caused by severe trauma? The special wine that gives you eternal life? Please watch the previous series Fall of the Cabal if you haven't just yet. Adrenochrome is connected to Pizzagate, child trafficking, sacrificial abuse, and now Alibaba, and thus Bill Gates. Interesting business, Mr. Gates. Or do you still believe he is innocent? Now, of course, when Alibaba, Amazon, Wayfair and bol.com were approached about these strange facts, they all claimed it was nothing but glitches in the software. Doesn't exactly explain this, does it? We could elaborate extensively on this topic, and we will in the near future. But right now, we are focusing on the demise of Bill Gates. But if you wish to do your own research, here are a few hints and tips. Take for instance the rocking chair. We found it by just choosing a department in the main menu. We changed sort by to price high to low. The rocking chair popped up on top of the list. Curious price to say the least. So we copied the article description, pasted it into a new tab and chose images. The same product appeared, sold by a different company. Click and find the normal price. We went back to the Amazon version. What else caught our eye? Ships from and sold by something nobody can pronounce. That's weird. So we typed it into a new tab and found this. We clicked on the top one and got this. The first three, no prices. Number 4? Interesting. Ridiculous price. So once again, we copied the article description, pasted it into a new tab, and chose images. The same product appeared, sold by a different company. Click and voila, the normal price. We went back to the Amazon version. What else caught our eye? The name of the manufacturer. Click. Once again, strange names. Click. Etc., etc. This is how it works. You are led from page to page. It works like a puzzle. They use codes and keys in order to lead you to the end product. And by that time, you are asked for your credit card data and more personal information. That's when we stopped. This is for the FBI to dive into. The same happened, by the way, when we searched for adrenochrome. A few months ago, Alibaba simply took you straight to their offers. But when we tried it again, everything had been deleted. No results. But when you simply go through their entire offer, there we are again. This time, however, one word has been added. Semicarbazone or carbazochrome. Two separate words, so why can't we search for adrenochrome? And why are they used together when they are not the same thing? Weird. We decided to use our old screenshots to see what caught our eye. Low prices for something so extraordinary. Minimum amount to purchase 10 tons? And a possible lead to the suppliers. The suppliers seemed professional. But look, Alibaba. And when we tried to buy the product, we were led straight back to Alibaba's website. Is this because the company only and exclusively sells via Alibaba? We find that hard to imagine. So we searched again. Did we miss something? Well, yes, we did. A bit further down is the supplier without the Alibaba link. But that took us to an entirely different company. Same name, different website, and nothing but an empty shell. A smokescreen. We checked out each and every so-called supplier of Alibaba, and they were all fake. Fake websites, fake addresses, and whatever we clicked, we were led straight back to Alibaba. Shell companies, not shelf. Shell, as in empty. A cover for criminal transactions. A man like Bill Gates knows exactly what he does when he invests millions into these companies. Make no mistake, he is well aware. He didn't visit Epstein's Pedo Island all those times to drink coffee and enjoy the scenery. What else? Gates invested no less than $1.3 billion in Walmart. Now you understand why Walmart has been so extreme in their COVID-19 policy from the start. Walmart, by the way, is a highly controversial business. In 2019, it paid $282 million to settle a 7-year bribery investigation by the US government. Let that marinate for a while. First they bribe Mexican and Chinese officials, then they settle a criminal investigation? Isn't that yet another form of bribery? Oh, and then Mr. Gates invested his $1.3 billion in this company, after which all of a sudden Walmart started showing their concern for the well-being of their customers and for people in general. How wonderful! Just like that, it changed from a criminal organization into a benign philanthropic business that pledged to eradicate the COVID killer virus and keep the world safe. In no time, Walmart was ready, supporting COVID-19 testing and administering vaccines. Wow, in your face! As millions of small and medium businesses went bankrupt due to the COVID hype, Walmart made astronomical profits thanks to Gates' CBR tests, his vaccines, and Walmart's e-commerce that grew 74% in the midst of a pandemic. Oh, and then there's Monsanto, recently bought by Bayer. In 2010, Gates bought 500,000 Monsanto shares worth $23 million. 8 years later, their worth had gone up to $64 million. Monsanto started off producing Agent Orange, a powerful and highly toxic chemical used during the Vietnam War to eliminate forest cover and to destroy crops. Its horrific side effects were all forms of cancer and birth deformities. Monsanto didn't exactly change its evil deeds and became known for its genetically modified seeds and crops, and for its poisonous weed killer Roundup. Bill Gates openly promotes GMOs as the answer to world hunger. In 2018, Monsanto was bought by Bayer, a chemical giant that produces poison. In other words, our food supply is now largely controlled by the producers of carcinogenic poison. Just in case you didn't hear this, let me repeat it. Our food supply is largely controlled by the producers of carcinogenic poison. Carcinogenic means it causes cancer. I wonder how many people think this is normal. And Rob Borsch, Deputy Director of the Agricultural Research and Development Team at the Gates Foundation until his retirement, spent 25 years of his career at Monsanto. Small world, evil players. And what about Gates' love for big pharmaceutical companies such as Bayer, Merck, Pfizer? He bought his way in through shares with millions and millions of dollars. Do you want to know why? So he can push his vaccination and poison fetish down the throat of each and every country in the world, while making astronomical profits via his shares in the companies that produce the poison. Do you know how that works? Here's an example. The Gates Foundation gives money to Pfizer, or Merck, or GlaxoSmithKline, or any other big pharma giant in which Gates has a financial interest, in order to develop a new vaccine. Next, the foundation gives money to political lobbyists to create a market for his vaccine. Then, Gates arranges a fixed and way too high price for the vaccine via Gavi, yet another Gates entity. The Gates Foundation and/or any of the involved and co-profiting NGOs such as Global Fund give donations to foreign governments to buy the vaccines. those governments are obliged to buy the vaccines from the vaccine producer. Think Merck or Pfizer. Global Fund gets their donation back from USAID. And last but not least, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation makes a massive profit and doesn't have to pay a dime of tax. So, who pays for the development and the purchase of the vaccines? That's right, you and me, the taxpayers.
You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades, and you figured out the return on investment for that. And it kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
Over a 20-to-1 return. So if you just look at the economic benefits, that's a pretty strong number compared to anything else.
I think the numbers that you ran through were if you had put that money into an S&P 500 and reinvested the dividends, you'd come up with something like $17 billion, but you think it's $200 billion.
Here, yeah.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation couldn't care less about the people in less developed countries. All they are interested in is profit. Profit through technology, research and development, GMOs, vaccines, and more poison. None of the above is about the heart. None of it is about true charity out of love for your fellow man. Is Mr. Gates simply obsessed with technology? Or are we dealing with a psychopath?
Within Microsoft, that browser share was a very, very important goal.
Well, you use several times, the very, and I don't know if you're asking specifically about some time where I use the words very, very. Is that the question?
Let's see what he's truly up to, shall we? Let's have a look at the effects of his philanthropy in less developed countries. Join us and bear witness to the trails of destruction this man leaves behind in part 11.
My, well, what can we say about that? My question when I look at this stuff is, how much money do they actually need to survive? I mean, think about that. There really is enough for everyone in the world. There really is. But we've been brainwashed with this narrative that we have to pay to survive. We just have to live to be on this earth. And when you see, to me, when I watch that, I get the feeling it's almost like they, we know they're mocking us, right? We know that. We've always said that. But it's like, the guinea pigs, just using, and especially Africa. You all know how I feel about Africa and African people. And I want to tell you, it's the most insane thing to me how they have absolutely used the people on this continent as their lab rats. That's all there is. There's a lot more as well. We know the whole AIDS thing. I'm not even sure if they've spoken about that yet. I know they spoke about vaccines before in Africa. But of course, we know that the AIDS vaccine was actually here to wipe out the African population. And then we look at these guys now sitting there, and of course, so many of them coming out of the Epstein files. And, it's like, yeah, how, I think there was a comment earlier, how does one feel after you've taken the jab, thinking it's the right thing, and then you're seeing these monsters appear out of the Epstein files and worse. And, as I said, how much money do they need? It's almost like they're making a mockery just to see how much they can make out of us. It's like, I bet they sit in these meetings, right? We've got Africa. We can do this. This is, We can make 50 billion. Hey, but let's push for 75. What more? It's like there's no empathy. There is zero empathy. That's the issue here. It's all about money and it's all about control. And exactly that. And how much money does one person need to survive comfortably? Actually, none, if you think about it. But anyway, I got to say, this stuff really does trigger me. And especially, you know, when we're looking at what the WHO has been doing in Africa to the African people and the kids. I've seen a lot of vaccine injury. I've seen, you know, in my travels, and especially in rural Africa, yeah, you see a lot of that. It's not pretty at all. Anyway, guys and gals, I will see you back in an hour. Yes, I have got Jimmy Blue on Aquarius Rising. He's the Jimi Hendrix cover artist. I mean, he looks just like Hendrix. Does his covers, probably sings like him too. But what an amazing guy. And he's going to be talking to us actually of the spiritual turning. You know, like what he was saying to me was that in the 60s, when he met Hendrix, because he was part of his fan club, there was a whole new line of spirituality that opened up through the LSD and the drugs and stuff like that. And that brought in this whole New Age movement. So very interesting to see what he has to say about that. Okie dokie, all you beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, it's hard to watch this stuff on your own, at least even if I'm not with you guys in the room. I kind of feel like we're all watching it together. Yeah, not nice to watch this. But as always, as I say, let it land in your body and let's not react. There we go. Thank you. Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, there we go. There's Jimmy Blue. That's his channel, so check him out. And I'm going to be speaking to him in an hour. So take it easy, everybody. God bless you all. Take good care and have a beautiful weekend. Mwah.